2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Inside Movies Galore. In here with me is director and special effects, shall I say, coordinator, Tony Masiello. Is that how you say your name?
Close enough.
Well, how do you say your name, and how did you get involved in the film industry?
Yeah, so the last name's Masiello.
Okay.
So the way I got into the film industry, I mean, like a lot of people, I grew up in the 80s and early 90s and was obsessed with video stores, going to video stores, renting movies and stuff like that. And started making short films with some friends in around junior high school era. A buddy had a video camera. And at the time, I think like a lot of kids who were horror fiends, I was like a super big Tom Savini fan and wanted to be the next Tom Savini. So I was doing like special effects and stuff like that for my friends' short films. And, eventually that kind of led really to wanting to work in the film industry. And honestly, like shot on video movies were like super inspirational for that because, I grew up very poor. I grew up, a single mother, raising a couple boys. And it was a pretty tough childhood. And never imagined I could go to film school or anything like that. But, I started watching all these shot on video horror films. And I was like, wow, man, you can just grab a camera and make a movie, and that was like super inspiring to me growing up. And so we kind of took that aesthetic and, started making short horror films. And after a while, I think I was in my mid-20s and my mom's like, what are you going to do with your life? And at the time I was mainly focusing on music and stuff like that. I'm also a musician. And so I decided, hey, maybe I should try to go to college for film. And so I went to school, studied digital video production and web design. And next thing I knew, I was, starting to work on movies. I think my first feature I actually worked on was the Rick Sloan movie, Goblins 2, which I used to run the Rick Sloan fan club, the Yahoo group. I mean, this is like in the early 2000s or late 90s, and befriended Rick, and he gave me a job as a production assistant on that movie, and that was really just the beginning. I mean, from there it would just kind of snowballed into working in the industry.
Okay. And how was it working on Hobgoblins 2?
Oh, it was a blast. I mean, I was a huge fan. So just even hanging out and getting to play with the puppets and I did a lot of things on set. I actually live in San Diego, which is a few hours south of Los Angeles. So I would drive to the set every day. It was like a sometimes 2 to 4 hour long drive to get to set and work all day, work till the wee mornings of the night, drive home, get about an hour of sleep, get back up and drive right back to LA. And, it was a blast. Rick was a real nice guy. He taught me a lot. I mean, I did so many jobs on that set. I mean, I not only was a production assistant, but, I have a small acting role in the movie. I designed a lot of the props for the movie. So a lot of graphic design, I made a fake cookie box and some book covers and stuff like that. And, I mean, it was just a blast. It was really cool. And me and Rick are still friends to this day. So.
Okay. Now, I just want to make sure because IMDb shows that you have like a lot of film projects going back to like the 80s. I don't know whether these are true or not. So, Top Gun, did you work on it?
Yes, I did work on Top Gun. So what happened is when I got out of school, I got a job with a company out here called Legend Films, aka Legend 3D. And I started working for them. And what they did was they would convert movies to 3D. This was when the early 2000s when 3D was like all the big rage in all the theaters. And so, the company I worked for, we would actually put all these movies into 3D. So yeah, I worked on a ton of different movies there. Top Gun, the Shrek films, Transformers films, SpiderMan. Oh, I mean, a whole bunch of stuff. I don't even remember half the movies we worked on.
Well, I just figured I'd ask you about some of these and what kind of things that you were able to accomplish while working on them. So, so 3D, I guess Top Gun worked with that.
Oh yeah, I mean it actually, I didn't see the whole movie in 3D, but just mainly the things I worked on for it. But yeah, I mean seeing flying, the jets and stuff like that looked really cool in 3D, and so it was fun. I mean, ultimately, I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of Hollywood movies.
Okay.
And I mainly, it paid the bills, so to
Totally
speak.
understand.
While I was working, on those movies, and actually making money, I was doing lots of low budget, no budget movies, doing visual effects on those, and for no money, pretty much just to kind of help support these filmmakers who kind of really inspired me to kind of jump in the business myself.
Okay. The whole reason why I thought it would be cool to ask you about what you did on these films is I'm fascinated with everything that has to do with films. What does a asset technician do on a film?
Yeah, so I actually had many roles at Legend. That was actually my last title, was as an asset technician, which I was mainly in charge of. When I was an asset tech, what we would mainly do is, so we would get all the footage from the studios.
Okay.
And as you probably know, at most movies these days, nothing is real anymore. Everything is completely fake. I mean, literally, they paint out, the wrinkles on Nicolas Cage's face and stuff like that. I mean, we would get updated plates. We're like, oh, we filled in his hair over here and stuff like that. And so we would get all the different layers and stuff to these shots, because every shot is pretty much filled with compositing and stuff like that. And we would put them into depth, into 3D. So mainly as an asset tech, I was mainly just kind of processing a lot of footage and setting up the 3D comps for our comp artists to work on.
Okay.
I was also a comp artist there for a while, so that's a lot of like 3D, like painting and making clean plates and stuff like that. But I enjoyed assets a lot more because it was kind of a lot more. You got to see more behind the scenes on how these things were put together and stuff like that. And I mean, as far as like, painting all day long just wasn't my idea of fun. So I really I enjoyed the asset kind of tech work a lot more than just being a comp artist.
Okay. And I know we talked a little bit about Top Gun. You did the Little Mermaid a little bit with the 3D stuff. You mentioned Shrek 2 and Shrek the Third and some of those movies. But I see that you worked with Freddle and Ray on Ghost in a Teeny Bikini and Bikini Girls from the Lost Planet, and as a rotoscope artist. What exactly is a rotoscope artist?
So a rotoscope artist is someone who actually, in a sense, is when it's an old technique. They used to use it a lot, like Disney would use it. And what you do is you pretty much animate over real people, or we refer to it now in comping, it's pretty much cutting people out of the background and stuff like that. So, getting each body part and, cutting it out, so to speak. The films for Fred, actually, that's actually a funny story. Actually, my first film credit, now that I think about it, was from Freddle and Ray. And the way that happened was I was just a big fan of his. He used to have this forum online called the Retro Media Forum. And it was a great forum, really cool place, with fans and filmmakers alike. Mm-hmm. And another cool place I learned a lot about film from. But Fred he had to come up with a new title for a movie for cable.
Okay.
You know, he was making all these bikini like softcore movies, and so he needed a title, and he kind of had a contest, and I won the contest. I came up with the winning title, which I
Nice.
believe was Bikini Roundup. I think was the one I did.
Okay.
And so after that, Fred just started putting my name in all of his movies. So, you know, he started giving me like credits like Bikini Wrangler, Rotoscoper, all this stuff. And really, he just did that to fill up the credits. Like, I didn't actually work on any of those films. The only one I actually did, I guess, technically kind of do anything on was that Bikini Roundup, coming up with the title. But I mean, Fred's a nice guy, cool guy. We actually, you know, in my film I made, Zombrella's House of Horrors, the fake movie within a movie is directed by Fred Olin Wood, which is obviously a reference to Fred Olin Ray and Ed Wood, two of my favorite filmmakers. So,
okay. Now I see you also did the visual effects for Prey for the Beast and Attack of the Giant Leeches. Why don't you tell me a little bit about those projects and how you got involved with them?
yeah, so those both were done for Brett Kelly, a Canadian filmmaker. I've done quite a few films with him at this point, and that was like actually some of my earliest composition work was working with him. I think Pray for the Beast was the first one we did. So did Pirates for Quest for Snake Island with him, Avenging Force the Scarab, My Fair Zombie. I mean, I did quite a few of his movies doing visual effects. And it was kind of just one of those things. He needed help, you know, and I was a fan and was more than happy to help him out. And great filmmaker, great guy. We actually released his movie Night Songs, his first film, from my company SOV Horror recently, which is really cool. Kind of full circle, you know. I started working for him, and now we're kind of actually working together. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. And yeah, great guy, great filmmaker.
Okay. Now. You also worked on the Green Hornet and Priest. So a lot of this work was fairly similar to the other stuff that you've done on previous films. Was there anything that got more difficult along the way for some of these?
Well, you know, with the Hollywood stuff, yeah, it always got more difficult. I mean, the company I started for, you know, we started off mainly just doing animation. So it was like a huge change when we went from doing animation to actual real footage. Like I remember, I think it was the second Transformers movie. Like I was one of the lucky people who got picked to do one of the first shots of that movie, and I just remember like racking my brains trying to do that work. I mean, it was extremely difficult work, and you know, because painting out things that don't exist is very difficult when you don't have much to work with. So yeah, I mean, it was really challenging switching from animation to regular film. But, you know, you kind of get used to it. You get better with it over time. And, you know, I love doing special effects for movies. I still do them. I'm doing actually working on a silent film right now. A friend of mine, Jay Wolfel, who's a filmmaker as well. I directed the movie Things and Demonicus, Demon Gladiator from Hell. And he's restoring an old kind of lost classic sci-fi movie, silent film. And I've been doing a lot of like recreating shots that are lost to time, so which has been a real interesting project. So yeah, I still take on that type of work, you know, when I get asked, but for the most part, I don't really seek out that type of work any longer. You know, I'm more focused on, you know, my company and that stuff.
Understood. I just thought I'd ask about some of these because these are some pretty well-known names, and it's kind of cool to be connected with them, you know.
You know, you mentioned Green Hornet. I guess that was like the only movie of all those movies I worked on, the big Hollywood movies, that actually went to the theater to go see, because that was one of the first like real films we did and we completed and came out. And you know, I'll be honest.
Now, can you even recognize some of the work that you did on many of these films?
Oh yeah. I mean, you when you work on a shot for, you know, weeks at a time, sometimes. I mean, because a shot could take a week. It all depends on, or you know, even a few hours. It all depends on what you're doing and whatnot. And yeah, Green Hornet was like that. I remember going to theater to see it, and going, yeah, there's my work on the big screen. Took my family there, and it was a lot of fun. Other than the movie being complete garbage, but it's still cool seeing my work up there. But I kind of learned pretty fast. I'm not one of these people who really sees 3D super great, So 2 hours of trying to watch a 3D movie just killed my head. And after that, I'm like, I don't need to see these anymore. I worked on them. That's kind of enough for me.
Understood. So you also worked on Thunderstorm, The Return of Thor, and Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. How was that for you?
So the Thor one, that's another Brett Kelly movie.
Okay.
And that one was a ton of fun, actually. That one we did a lot of different effects. I remember one of them that I particularly had a good time doing was this shot where this kind of the evil heel lady of the movie, shoots this guy with a vaporizing ray, and we vaporized his entire body, which was a lot of fun. The Pirates movie. Pirates I didn't work on too much. I think I did a shot or two on that one. Okay. And that was kind of cool, I mean, my wife's really into those films and stuff, so it's kind of neat, Same with, like, she's a big Disney fan, so, getting to work on things like Little Mermaid, it's like,
well,
hey,
yeah,
that's on Little Mermaid.
Well, that was such a classic comeback for Disney, So
sure, that was big.
At the time. So being connected to the Little Mermaid, it probably is something special, Even though
we did the re-release, so it wasn't I didn't work on the initial film, but we did the 3D re-release of Little Mermaid. So
okay. And also you worked on the Smurfs and Conan the Barbarian from 2011. I was working on those.
Smurfs was actually really cool. So Smurfs was one of my first. I was the head of assets for that project, and that was the first time I actually got to lead the team on a project, which was like really cool. It was a total learning curve once again. I think around that time we had switched from using Adobe software to using Nuke, so it's like learning a whole new compositing program and learning how to use Nuke, which was really cool, learning node-based compositing. And I mean, it was a lot of fun. Once again, I never saw the movie, so I don't know how the movie came out. But I mean, I worked on just about every shot of the film. So, because being the lead, it all went through me. So it was really cool kind of seeing all that come together.
Okay. Now, did you always work inside of a studio, or could you actually work from home working on some of these projects?
This was all at the studio. Yeah, this is. I don't even think the technology was quite there for like remote work like it is now.
Okay. Cool. And Conan the Barbarian. What did you end up doing on that film?
Conan, it was another one we did 3D on. I'll be honest, I barely remember what I even did on that movie. We worked on a lot of movies there, and some we would be contracted to do the whole film, so we do all 2 hours of it. Where other ones, it was shared between studios, so there'd be us and like a couple other 3D companies also working on it at the same time. Because really, what was going on with the 3D? I mean, I guess I can kind of give you at least my insight of that whole field at the time. And long story short, that 3D trend really kind of just started, in that kind of early 2000s. And the funny part about it is, so the movies that were shot in 3D obviously looked the best and were well made. But what I felt I kept seeing, and you can probably tell by some of the titles you've listed, is a lot of the times these movies we'd be converting, I felt like they were trying to save the movies, like to make more money in a sense. Like, so they knew they had a bomb on their hands, like with Green Hornet. They knew the movie wasn't very good. And they're like, well, if we convert it to 3D, we'll sell more tickets. We get more people into the theater. And so, and they would use post-conversion services like the company I worked for. Where, like I said, if the good 3D was typically shot on set that way. Not to say that 3D conversion isn't good, but it's definitely not a flawless technology. I mean, a big part of our job in 3D is, the 3D would pretty much cause artifacting throughout the entire film, and you'd have to go and paint all that out, which is extremely time consuming. And I mean, depending on the difficulty of a shot, like I said, some shots could take you, an hour, where other shots could take you weeks. I remember I had one shot. I think was either Shrek 2 or Shrek 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were literally down to the wire. Like I think I pulled like a 16-hour day working on this shot, and I had another guy helping me out because it was so involved. It was like this big waterfall type shot, and I remember finishing that was like the greatest feeling ever, because it's like you can go home now.
Totally.
I mean, there's and there's been lots of talk of that recently. The how artists are treated in Hollywood, especially visual effects artists and stuff like that. And being someone who worked in that field, I can tell you right now, they work you to death. I mean, working a 14-hour day was commonplace. Okay. We'd be lucky if we got one day off a week. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, hey, let's work 7 days. And I mean, you make a shit ton of overtime. So it was great money. The money was great. But at the end of the day, I mean, you got to have a life.
Totally understand.
I was kind of glad. The reason I actually quit working there is my company moved to Canada.
Okay.
Like a lot of companies, they could get cheaper labor in Canada, so they moved to Canada for all the tax breaks and everything. And I had the option to go, and I said no, thank you. I didn't want to move to Canada. So.
Not a problem. I just figured I'd ask you a little bit about each project. Whatever you remembered, you remembered. So, but after Conan the Barbarian, you got involved with Hugo and Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. I was working on those projects.
Hugo was really cool. So one of the challenges with Hugo when we were working on it was, and once again, you have to excuse me, I haven't seen the film, so I'm just going off of my memory from working on it. But, I know the film's partially based on and of George Méliès, the old filmmaker. And one of the things Scorsese wanted was he wanted to, they had weird colorization techniques back then to colorize footage. Okay. And they had this nice print of this Méliès film, but it wasn't in color. And so, I was actually the guy at my company who figured out the proper way to colorize it super fast and super cheap. I probably saved my company like a lot of money on that one. And so that was really cool. That was like totally my technique I came up with. I was like, hey, if we do this, this, and this, I think this is going to work. And sure enough, it worked. It looked great. You can even tell the little cheat we did to make it work. And so that Hugo was really cool. I'm sorry, what was that other one you asked about?
Oh, Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance.
Ghost Rider. Yeah, that one I don't really remember too much, other than, like, I think I mentioned before, you would get, one day you get a plate of Nicolas Cage, the next day you get a new plate of Nicolas Cage, and all of his wrinkles are gone. So, it's one of those things where you really got to see how Hollywood fakes everything. I mean, literally everything. I remember, like, working on the Superman film, Man of Steel, and I could not believe, like, almost every shot of Superman's cape, his cape is not real. Like, and I remember just thinking, like, why is his cape digital in the entire film? Like, couldn't you just put a cape on the actor? Is it really that hard? I mean, even shots where it was like it wasn't like moving or anything, it's fake, and you're like, okay, that's kind of weird. It's kind of funny how Hollywood, it's that fix it in post, kind of thing a lot of filmmakers have.
Well, yeah, you wish that they would use more practical effects for some of these things,
I was just asked to do a job. I was just asked to help part with a job, which I kind of turned down the other day. I don't want to say the filmmaker, but a pretty big filmmaker, actually. It would have been cool to work with this guy. But it was another example of, like, hey, I have this thing I want to do in post that we could have easily done on set, but I want to do it in post, and I want it done super cheap. And it's just like, you can do it. What he wanted was not impossible, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you could have easily done that on set. Like, why are you coming to me? You know what I mean? To do this work, and something they could have easily done on set for me would have took. We're talking hundreds of hours. So one of the reasons I turned down the gig, but that's kind of one thing I don't think I really like or admire about the Hollywood, kind of industry is just this idea, just throw money at it. We'll fix it in post. It doesn't matter. Move on. It's like, what happened to filmmaking? What happened to actually trying to make a good movie instead of, we'll fix it in post,
Totally understand. So I'm going to ask you about Rise of the Black Bat and Jurassic Shark. How was working on those?
2 more Brett Kelly movies. Rise of the Black Bat, I just did one shot on that. That was like a big explosion, kind of a guy drops a bomb and, leaves a big explosion behind him. And that was cool. I mean, I like doing explosion stuff. It's, at this point, I've done so many explosions in my career as an effects guy that it's like second nature. It's so simple. I can do an explosion shot very fast. The other one, Jurassic Shark. that was another kind of fun one. I got to do another explosion, but this time I actually blew someone up as well. So another example of making someone's part of their face kind of melt off type deal. I mean, it's very subtle in the film. You'd have to go frame by frame to really see the extensive work that I put into that shot. But yeah, it was a fun one, and it's kind of cool. I like that I got to work in so many different types of movies. It's like every movie effects project is different. And it's like, here's a shark movie, here's a Batman ripoff movie, here's a zombie movie. So it's always kind of fun.
Oh yeah. So you worked on Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, and the Amazing SpiderMan. How are working on those?
Most of those I don't remember. I remember Spider-Man. Spider-Man was cool. I mean, that was another one. Just another funny kind of story is product placement. So one of the interesting things that went on with Spider-Man is, a big chunk of the movie took place in Times Square. Okay. And so for Japan, they need different advertising. So we had to go in and change out all the billboards for the Japanese release of the movie for different products. So that's something I don't think everyone's aware of, is that literally, you see product placement in a movie, but you don't always understand, hey, that's maybe only in your territory. So, maybe in the US it's Coke, but in Japan it's, some other soft drink or something like that.
Okay. So after those projects, you got involved with Life of Pi and Oz the Great and Powerful. How was working with those?
Life of Pi, I don't remember too much. I just remember there's like a cheetah or something. Oz was cool. Oz was fun. I mean, that was another one. It was like, we get the plates in from the studio, and just pretty much everything you see in that movie is not real. Even the sets were all pretty much completely fake and green screen. And, I don't know. I saw the film. I didn't quite care for it, but, it was cool. It was cool. I mean, I love the original Wizard of Oz. So, I mean, that's honestly one of my favorite movies. I mean, if you ask me, it's one of the best films, if not the best film ever made. And, so yeah, I guess kind of getting to work on an Oz movie, that's pretty cool,
Oh, yeah. So then you worked on Sex Squatch. How was that for you?
That was a step up, honestly. People go, you go from Oz to Sex Squatch. They go, your career went really down, didn't it? I'm like, no, I was really excited to work on Sex Squatch. That film was a movie by a filmmaker named Chris Seaver, who I'm a huge fan of. I've put out some of his movies as well. And I think what I do on that one, I think there's another explosion shot in there. Yeah, the Sex Squatch gets blown up. And I think I did the title card for that one. So that was a lot of fun. I mean, working with Chris is cool. He's just a really nice guy. And I've done a few movies with him. And, when you work on these movies for free, because, I mean, most of the low budget stuff, I didn't get paid for. I do it for free. Because these guys I was fans of a lot of these filmmakers and stuff like that. It was kind of my way of paying back the genre that inspired me, to get in the industry. And, working with someone like Chris is great because some filmmakers, no matter how low budget they are very controlling on what they want. You know, they're very like, I want it exactly like this, and you cannot deviate from that whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, when you're doing special effects, in a sense, you are an artist as well. You have the computer as your paintbrush to make these shots come to life. And, you know, a filmmaker like Chris is complete opposite. He's like, this is kind of what I want. Do your magic, man. and you know, I love people like that who just kind of let you do your thing. And that's how Chris was. I did a few movies with him. The other one I did with him was a movie called Phantom of the Grindhouse, which is still one of my favorite effects. We did a shot where a guy's pretty much shot in the head, point blank range, and I blew off the entire top half of his skull. You know, which is really fun. And the shot came out really cool. So that was another one I really liked working on for Chris.
Okay. I know you talked about Man of Steel, but after that, you did the Smurfs too, and you worked with Metallica on Through the Never, correct?
Yeah, the Metallica project, honestly, I don't remember too much about that. That's, once again, that was a thing where they didn't shoot it in 3D, so we converted it to 3D at the company. And I don't think I did a lot on that one. I probably worked on a few shots. And that's how it was with the 3D studio. Like, some movies I'd work on way more in depth, where others, you know, we maybe work on for a few weeks and then we were done with it. So
okay.
I don't really remember too much about the Metallica one.
Okay. But Smurfs too?
Yeah, Smurfs too. That was yeah. I mean, just like Smurfs, it was a lot of fun, and you know, we. I still remember the codes. You know, every movie would get like a code, and I'm pretty sure Smurfs code was 242. When you work in Hollywood, everything has fake names and fake codes, and you know, so I still remember some of those codes.
So after Metallica, you got involved with My Fair Zombie and House of Forbidden Secrets. You worked with Todd Sheets.
Yeah, Todd Sheets. So My Fair Zombie first, that was another Brett Kelly. That one was a ton of fun because it was like the first zombie film I did effects for. I got to do a lot of cool stuff on that, you know, some zombie biting. A guy gets a shovel to the neck, which was a blast doing. The guy puking on the screen. So that one was real squishy and fun. I got to do a lot of gross stuff, so that was a good time. House of Forbidden Secrets and working with Todd Sheets was just, talk about a dream come true. I mean, I grew up watching Todd's films, and you know, we kind of started an internet friendship and whatnot. And eventually, you know, I had mentioned to him, "Hey, I do effects. If you ever need me for anything, just hit me up." And he needed some help with House of Forbidden Secrets, and I think I did like 6 or 7 shots for that one. We did quite a few different little shots on that one. Mainly more like lighting effects and stuff like that. It wasn't really like gore or anything like that for that particular show. Okay. But there was a lot of like, I think, yeah. See, I get some of them confused at this point because it's been a while. But yeah, I think I did like a cross shot where like this cross is kind of illuminating and stuff like that. And it was just really cool working with Todd. And I've done a few movies with him now as well. And always a pleasure to work with him. And we're actually putting out one of his Lost movies, one of his first movies. I think it was shot in '86. We're going to be releasing that very soon. So extremely excited about that one. I think people are really going to dig it.
Nice. And after working on House of Forbidden Secrets, you directed a segment, and you also did some visual effects for the High 8 anthology, correct?
Yeah, so High 8's kind of a funny story. The way that movie even started is I was, at the time, I was working on a documentary project called SOV, The True Independence, which my intention was to make a documentary all about shot on video movies. Okay. And so I started this Facebook group for the filmmakers and myself to just kind of converse. And after a while, I realized, like, hey, this is just a fun place. Let's let fans join and stuff like that. So we kind of opened up the group to fans and stuff like that. And so it was this great place for quite a while. It was like people just talking SOV horror like constantly, which was such a blast. And around that time, the movie VHS had came out.
Okay.
And, obviously all the SOV guys are like, hey, we were making VHS before it was cool. You know what I mean? And so Tim Ritter posted one day. He was just like, or actually, no, it was a fan. It was a fan. Sorry, it was a fan. I still remember who it was. Hunes, who came up with the actual idea for High 8. He did a post in the group. He's like, wouldn't it be cool if all you SOV guys got together and made your own, type of movie like this, an anthology with a bunch of the veteran directors. And from there, Brad Sykes and Tim Ritter kind of got together and really liked that idea and kind of came up with making High 8. The way I pretty much got involved with it was, I was friends with all these guys already, but they had 7 filmmakers. They wanted 8. And so I wasn't like the kid in the back of the class who raised my hand, me. And Brad really didn't want to hire me for it. He didn't trust me, to be honest with you. And but Tim Ritter convinced him to, and we ended up making The Tape, which is I think it's a great little short film. Unfortunately, there was some tampering with the edit by the producers. I don't want to go into that too much, but long story short, I'm not too happy with the presentation of my movie in that. It was definitely changed from its original intention. But it was a great opportunity to make this movie with all these other shot on video veterans and have my name next to Tim Ritter and Donald Farmer and Todd Sheets and Chris Seaver and all these Ron Bonk, all these people I admire so much, so.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Really cool.
I think that's why I ended up producing behind High Fear in the end. So, but in any case, after that, you got involved with the Lego Movie and Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I was working on those 2 films.
Lego Movie, I remember that one a bit. That one was kind of interesting. Obviously it's all Lego men, so it's kind of an interesting one to work on. Captain America, just another superhero movie. They're all the same to me. So.
And I guess you ended up working on the Amazing SpiderMan 2 as a technician, correct?
Yeah. So we did a couple of the Spider-Man films. Once again, just, it paid the bills. I don't really have too many thoughts on a lot of those movies.
Okay. Then I guess you Enchanted Kingdom you worked on as a documentary.
Yeah,
correct?
that was a BBC documentary, I believe. We did some 3D on that one. So
okay.
What's kind of interesting about some of those is, once again, these documentaries you guys watch, a lot of people think this stuff is real. And I'll tell you right now, half that stuff is not real. We're literally getting updated plates where they're like, oh, yeah, cover this up with this CG and do this and this. So, it's that, I try to remind people, don't always believe what you see on the screen because it's not always real.
Okay. And then after that, you worked on Maleficent and Transformers: Age of Extinction, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How was working on the 3D effects of those films?
Yeah, those ones are cool. Transformers was definitely that one was challenging. That one had, talk about all visual effects. That movie was loaded every shot, and so that one, I remember we worked on that movie for quite a while. That was a pretty, both the Transformer films we worked on were pretty major projects for our studio. And it's cool. Staring at Shia LaBeouf's face all the time, though, definitely would get annoying. We'd all make kind of jokes about stuff like that. And,
Totally understand. So after those projects, you got involved in a short film called The Recruit. I was working on that.
The Recruit, what is that? I'll be honest, I don't remember that.
Huh.
I'm sure I worked on it. If it's on my IMDb, I'm sure I worked on it. You know, I just don't remember every project. Like I said, the thing even with my IMDb is, you know, a lot of people call it the inaccurate movie database. And, I'm the same way. Like, honestly, I'm probably missing 50 credits on IMDb. You know what I mean? I don't put them up myself. When I was first starting out, I would like put up my own credits and stuff. But after a while, I got tired of doing it. And even now, for like my films I make, like some of the actors and people go, "Oh, are you doing an IMDb?" And I'm like, "Nah." I'm like, "If you want to, you can." Because nowadays you see everything on IMDb. I mean, I see YouTube shows on IMDb. Like, I don't think it has the power it used to have. You know, when you're looking for a job in the past, I could just tell people, "Go to my IMDb." You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But now anyone with a podcast or whatever has credits now on IMDb, so it's not really, you know, much of a job tool anymore.
So after that, I guess you were involved with She Kills, Dreaming Purple Neon, and Clownado, doing some of the effects behind these films. Mm-hmm. Why don't you tell me a little bit about those projects?
She Kills was a blast. I did that one for Ron Bonk, who runs SRS, and yeah, it was you know, I think Ron comes to me and he goes, "Is there a way you can make a gun pulled out of a lady's butt?" and he had this shot, and he wanted me to make it look better of this gun coming out of a fake butt. And that was one of the first, and no one's ever asked me to do that before. So that was definitely a lot of fun working on that. And so the girl in the movie, she goes around shooting all these guys in their dicks as well. So I did a bunch of dicks getting shot, you know. Okay. A lot of fun. And Dreaming Purple Neon, that was another Todd Sheets one. For that, I think I mainly just did some, oh no, I did do some big stuff on that. Okay, yeah. I did some touch-up work. So there was just some shots that needed some touch-up work that I did. But I also did, there's like the main villainous lady played by Dylan Fawn Harvey, who I worked with later on in one of my films. But where she's like kind of gets possessed and stuff. And so I did all that stuff, like, you know, her getting possessed and, you know, some really cool shots of her like in the hallway, you know, and all this debris and fire coming down. So that one was really cool. That one definitely had some different challenges I had never done before as well.
Okay. And Clownado?
Clownado, I don't remember what I did on Clownado, honestly. I might have done some touch-up work on it, or that could be a case where Todd just gave me a credit.
Okay. And you did a work on High Fear a bit on a segment called When Shadows Come Alive. How was that?
That was a favor for Tim Ritter. You know, me and Tim are really good buddies. Tim's been one of the most supportive and helpful guys of me getting in the industry. And, you know, he co-directed my film Zombrello's House of Horrors with me. And so he asked me to help him out with High Fear, and I agreed to do it for Tim. I think I worked on the third one too that's not out yet. I did some effects on that one too. Okay. So, you know, anytime Tim calls and he's like, "Hey, can you do something, Tony?" If I got the time, I'll always do it for Tim because, you know, he's just such a nice guy, such a great guy. And I mean, so helpful to me in my career. I can't thank him enough for what he's done for me.
Definitely. So you also directed a segment in Sleepless Nights, which was an anthology called Love Me in Pieces. How was that for you?
That one was really cool. So the way that one came about was Todd Sheets. You know, he was another guy who worked on High 8. And let's just say I'm not speaking for Todd. I'm speaking for myself. And I'll just say a few other filmmakers off the record weren't too happy with the way that film was handled, the first one. And long story short, you know, I was kind of bitching to Todd about it because we're friends. And Todd's like, "Well, hey, I'm making this other anthology. You want to make something?" You know, the only caveat was like, "Hey, I need something in like 2 months." Okay. I'm like, "Oh shit, you know, that's not a lot of time to write a script, pre-production, like the whole deal." I mean, the previous short, The Tape I had done, that took, gosh, I don't know. We did it pretty fast, but I mean, still, even for a short like that, I mean, I all my actor friends, because all my actors are friends for the most part. I don't really work with real actors.
Okay.
I can't afford them like a lot of people. This all comes out of my pocket. It's a hobby, you know. I'm not getting rich or anything making these things. And
Okay.
my friends call me One More Take, you know, One More Take Tony, because I'm always like, one more take, one more take, one more take. And so, you know, it's typical for a short film to be multiple 14-hour days over months, you know, because I'm working with amateurs and we're all just trying our best, you know, with the limited resources we have. So
Okay.
like we had 2 months to make Love Me in Pieces, which to me at the time like seemed absolutely crazy. But I'm like, I'd love to work with Todd again. I'd love to contribute to Todd's film. You know, I'm just such a huge fan of him and, you know, such a great, nice guy. And so the script and everything was written by my buddy Matt Hill, who also wrote the tape for me. We worked on those first 2 films together. He's a good writer. He went on to write Cannibal Campout, or not,
Okay.
sorry, not Cannibal Campout, Killer Campout, and some other films, I believe. And but you know, the challenge was, okay, well, how can we make a movie that fast? You know, so it's like, okay, we need. First thing is like, first, let's not have a lot of characters. Let's keep it minimal. So the thought was, let's just have 2 characters in the entire movie. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then the next thought was like, okay, well, we can't do a lot of locations once again because we don't have time. We don't have the budget. So, you know, it was like, okay, let's isolate it to a house. And the funny thing is almost all my short films, you know, were shot in a 1-bedroom apartment that I lived in with my my then girlfriend, now wife. And, you know, we were living out of boxes for months at a time making these movies because I'd literally have to turn my house into a set. So, you know, when you only live in a 1-bedroom apartment. And so one of the things we would do is we would hang fabric from the walls.
Okay.
So you couldn't tell it was the same wall you just saw in the last shot. It's a great little trick. I mention it here because I think other low budget filmmakers could really benefit from thinking that way. You know, it's like you have to think creatively. How are we going to make this? But that film was a blast. It was. I mean, there were some long days for sure, very long days. But we got it done on time and we got it in, and Todd liked it, and you know, I think it came out really good.
Okay. And after that, you did a segment for the Grindsploitation stuff that came out in Trauma called Cannibal Vampire Call Girl Hookers from Outer Space Part 3, which why don't you tell me a little bit about that project?
So it is actually the 3rd one. I'll preface it with that. A lot of people thought that part of the joke was it's Part 3. And I knew that'd be funny. Really, the way Cannibal Vampire Call Girl Hookers even started was I was supposed to be shooting a short film, and an actor didn't show up.
Okay.
And I was set up to do a dick biting scene, is what I was set up to do. I had prepped the effects and all that stuff, and the guy bails at the last minute. And I'm like, well, shit, what can I do now? You know, I got all this stuff prepped. I'm ready. And I just thought really fast. I'm like, let me just call some of my friends. And at the time, most of my friends were women. And so I'm going to call a bunch of my girlfriends. Let's come over. Let's make a movie, you know? And so I just came up with the idea off the top of my head, Cannibal Vampire Call Girl Hookers from Outer Space. I thought it was a great title. And I'm a big fan of long titles. My favorite horror film is Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama, you know, so long title. And so we shot this Cannibal Vampire Call Girl Hookers from Outer Space, you know, and it was just a fake trailer is all it was. And some years later, I made a sequel, and then we worked on the feature. And the feature, you know, unfortunately, some stuff happened outside of my control, and the feature fell apart after 6 months. I mean, that's another thing, people. You can work on a movie for 6 months, and it just falls apart. And so we had done 1, we had done part 2, kinda, and so Tony Newton was producing this Grindsploitation movie, and I think he had seen the tape or Love Me in Peace. It's one of my other shorts in either High 8 or Sleepless Nights, and he actually asked me to direct a short for that, you know, a fake trailer for Grindsploitation. And so I'm like, okay, cool. It seemed natural to make Cannibal Vampire Call Girl Hookers from Outer Space Part 3. So we did some more dick biting, some eye gougings. I laugh about that movie because I think there was over 80 camera setups for a 5-minute long trailer. There's probably about 20 death scenes in it. There's a ton of nudity. I mean, we joke that we shot all the good parts of a movie. We just forgot to shoot the movie. So we didn't shoot a lot of dialogue. But in retrospect, I kind of wish I would have just made a feature, because we literally we had enough to fit in a feature as far as effects and nudity went. We probably should have wrote some more dialogue. But that was a blast, and someday, I hope to make a part 4.
Okay. And after that, you got involved with Brad Twigg's Frames of Fear, doing a segment called Morty and Chester's Grim Return. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly how I first hooked up with Brad Twigg, but I believe he asked me to direct that. I'm not sure if he approached me or I approached him about it. But he needed a short film, and for that one, what was really cool is Tim Ritter had offered to write me a script. I was helping him out a lot with a lot of stuff, and he told me, if you ever need a script, let me know. And for all my things I've ever made, I pretty much come up with the idea, the outline myself, and then typically I will hire someone to write the script from that, because I don't write good dialogue. I mean, some people are really good at writing dialogue, where it seems natural and stuff like that. I find when I write dialogue, it's just terrible.
Okay.
It's not very good. So I typically like to work with writers, but I always give them a super detailed outline of pretty much every scene, what I want in the movie, things that I need in the film and stuff like that. And so working with Tim was just an absolute joy. I mean, here's one of my favorite writers. I mean, writing my movie for me. Wow. And I mean, he just nailed it out of the park. I mean, I gave him my idea. I said, it's kind of a tribute. The movie itself is kind of a tribute to Chester Neville Turner's Black Devil Doll from Hell. It's about an evil ventriloquist doll that comes to life on Halloween night and tortures a bunch of girls. And I mean, he got it. He just got what I was going for. And that one was a blast. I mean, it was so much fun making that movie. Me and all my friends, and it was kind of the last movie I made with my normal assistant director, John Hoden, who before he moved away. And one of the reasons we were able to make that movie was he was moving, out of state, and they pretty much had an empty house. So we didn't just have a 1-bedroom apartment this time. We actually had a house to shoot in, which was really nice. And I probably should have utilized the location more than I did. But, I mean, killer puppet, lots of boobs. I mean, it was a good time. It was a good time. It was stressful, like making any movie, it's stressful. And, it was, all out of pocket once again. You don't make any money doing these things, but, you do it because you love it, and you just hope that people enjoy them too,
Okay. So I see that you did a TV miniseries of SOV horror. What? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's actually someone put that up there for me, I guess. I think that's referring to my web series, SOV: The True Independence, which I kind of mentioned earlier. When I first got out of college and I wanted to make a movie, I was trying to make Cannibal Hookers Part 2, and that fell apart, like I said. And so I was really just kind of disenfranchised of working with people because it fell apart because of other people, situations outside of my control. After spending the better part of 6 months and hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars producing this thing, to just see the whole project fall apart was really sad. And so I'm like, I want to make something where I don't have to rely on anyone.
Okay.
And I was like, what can I do? And I'm like, how about a documentary, and I'd love to make one about shot on video movies. Cause to me, I mean, shot on video movies, they're amazing. There's no other genre like shot on video horror films. There really isn't. These were like filmmakers who just wanted to make their own movies, and they didn't give a shit what anyone thought. They would. You see the wildest, most craziest thing in these movies, and the best part about these movies is they actually got in the video stores, and some of these guys actually made money and made a living off of it. Some of them still do. And so it's just so inspiring to me, and really, helped push me to go to film school and all that. So I figured I'd make a movie about that. And so I started working on that and conducting interviews and stuff like that. I think I got about 50 interviews in the can on it. And, like life happens, all of a sudden I'm asked to direct movies, when, High 8 came about and all these other projects started coming about. So the documentary just getting pushed to the wayside, unfortunately. And so I didn't want all that stuff to just sit. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to make a web series then. And when I have free time, which isn't very often, but when I do, I'll make a new episode each every so often. And I think I've done about 12, 13, 14 episodes at this point. I mean, there's plenty more I can do. And I do hope to maybe even make the film someday. There's still some bigger interviews I need to get because I'm a completist. I want to tell the full story. But yeah, so that's pretty much the web story, and it's pretty much in a sense it's like mini making of documentaries.
Okay.
So one's about Blood Lake, one's about WNUF Halloween special, but these are interviews with the people who were responsible for making these movies, and they're kind of intercut with scenes from the films and stuff like that.
Very cool.
And they're for free. Anyone who wants to watch them, it is on my website, sovhorror.com. Just go to the SOV, the True Independence page.
Okay. And then you directed Zombarella's House of Horrors, Classic Christmas, Yule Log Fireplace with Holiday Shorts, and Natasha Nighty's Boudoir of Blood. Why don't you tell me a little bit about these projects?
Yeah, so Zombarella's House of Horrors, the way that came about was kind of really on accident. I was re-editing some old footage just for an editing exercise. I was bored, sometimes you just kind of, how can I repurpose some old footage? And I'd repurposed a bunch of old footage from the Cannibal Vampire Call Girl Hookers from Outer Space movies. And I said, it'd be really cool to just have someone host this stuff. And so I asked my friend, I'm like, hey, would you play this horror hostess character and do it? She had this really, cool, like goth kind of look that I thought was just perfect horror hostess, And she agreed. And so we ended up shooting this stuff. And it was just for me and my friends. I've never commercially released that stuff. But it came out really cool, and it made me think, like, wow, I've done a ton of shorts now. I've done a lot of shorts. I've done fake trailers. I've done all this stuff. What if I got all this stuff and compiled it into one film? And I was trying to think, well, how can I do that? And so the idea of making it a fake satellite TV broadcast. And so, there would be a horror hostess hosting this show, except, it's satellite TV. That way you can have nudity, blood, and gore, and all that fun stuff, and but still have commercial breaks. I was a big fan of growing up. I watched a lot of USA Up All Night. That's like one of my favorite shows growing up as a kid, and so like I had to fill it with 1-900-sex ad phone numbers and stuff like that because that's the stuff I would see on USA Up All Night. And so that actually features, if anyone wanted to check out a lot of those shorts we previously mentioned. Love Me in Pieces is in there. Morty and Chester's Grim Return is in there. So a lot of my stuff's in there. And originally I was going to put another one of my shorts in there to have 3, but I couldn't license it from the producers of that movie. And so I was one short. And so I was just talking to Tim Ritter and asked him if he'd maybe be interested in doing a short, and he said, yeah. And he's like, while I'm at it, can I do some commercials? And I was like, of course, please do some commercials as well, because he loved the concept, he loved the idea. So he directed a short in that, which is so much fun. It's like this girl who wants to have alien sex, pretty much. It's a blast. and so he did that, and he also, did some fake trailers and stuff as well. So that's pretty much how Zombarella's House of Horrors came about, and I always tell people that's 20 years of my filmmaking in there, because it's literally got stuff in there that I shot, like 20 years previously. I literally recycled a bunch of old footage to make new trailers and new commercials and stuff like that. And Tim kind of did the same. And Natasha Knighty's Boudoir of Blood is actually the sequel to Zombrella's House of Horrors. So the gag with that was that no one really got, probably, except for me. It's just my weird sense of humor. Was like, what if you had a horror series like that, but each time you had a different host? So instead of having Zombrella come back, have Natasha Knighty. And then for the third one, have a different host. And so that was kind of like the joke. And so I don't think a lot of people got that. But we did produce the sequel. And the sequel, that time I actually did hire a couple of directors to do shorts with me for that one. So we had shorts by Ron Ford, and Jeff Kirkendall, who are both filmmakers that I'm big fans of both of them. I think they're both very talented guys.
Oh yeah.
And so they contributed 2 shorts, and then I did one of my early shorts. Typeface is in there. I did a whole brand new cut and a rescore of that film, and we outsourced for commercials. So we actually had people submit commercials. And, I edited most of them, but we'd have people shoot stuff and send it to me. And then I would cut the commercials. Some of them I'd help write the script. Some of them it was completely on the actors. And so we got to work with a lot of cool different people on that, who I normally wouldn't be able to work with just because of location, because I'm in San Diego and they're maybe in Virginia or Florida and stuff like that. So that was really cool. And we're actually right now I'm almost done wrapping the 3rd movie. So we're working on the 3rd in the series and possibly the 4th at the same time. So
nice.
Yeah, the 3rd one though, I may actually I'm still teeter-tottering. I may actually go back to our last host, Natasha Knighty, because people just really liked her. I mean, her whole gimmick, everyone has a gimmick if you're a horror host, right? You gotta have a gimmick. And I'm like, what has not been done? You know what I mean? What hasn't been done? And I'm like, I've never seen a stripping horror hostess. So she's the world's first stripping horror hostess is her gimmick. And so the longer you get through the movie, the more clothes she takes off until she's nude by the end of the film. So that's kind of her gimmick. And people seem to like the character. We've brought the character back to host a line of DVDs that I put out. And she's hosted 2 of those so far. We have 2 more on the way that she's also going to be hosting. So, yeah, Natasha Knighty, pretty cool character. And sorry, I forgot the Christmas movie. So, the Christmas movie, I work for a couple companies right now. I work for Riff Tracks and Legend Films.
Okay.
And Legend Films is different from Legend 3D. For Legend Films, one of the things I do for them is I create new movies for them to release. So, a lot of times I'll do that with existing public domain stuff. So say, well, like in the Christmas case, I think that's just a bunch of public domain Christmas shorts that I threw together into a feature, and we sell those and make money off of those. And I've probably done at least like 30 or 40 movies like that, these compilation movies that I've actually put together and released with them. Okay. So, I mean, once again, that's like my day job, so it's more just work. But I always love doing that stuff. I'm a big fan of educational movies and just weird esoteric type films, and so I love just putting together drug compilations or sex education compilations and stuff like that.
So when did you bring about SOV horror?
Yeah, SOV horror. Gosh, it's been almost 20 years now. I think. To be honest, I don't know the exact date. I'm not sure if I started the website before the SOV, the True Independence. I think I may have, and it was just kind of my way of saying, of like reviewing horror movies and stuff like that. And at first it was just in a sense, a fan site for shot on video movies. There wasn't really many places online to get any info about these types of films. I mean, and at the time, there's been a resurgence since, which is great. I'm so happy people are finally watching these movies and giving them the appreciation they deserve. But, at the time, I couldn't even find many other fans, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't a lot of people like these movies, a handful of us, you know, and we'd all become friends and nerd out on them. And so, you know, started the website for that. And, you know, eventually that led to the DVD label. I mean, and the way that pretty much happened was an accident, you know, a little happy accident. I was wanted to do some new reviews for the website, and I had a box of tapes of a director friend had given me, and in one of those was like this dub tape. It had like 3 or 4 movies on it, and one of the movies on there was an old Hugh Gallagher movie called Dead Silence, which at the time you could not find Dead Silence anywhere. I mean, this was SRS has since re-released that film, but this was before that. I mean, so I was like super excited to watch Dead Silence because Hugh Gallagher is one of my favorite filmmakers. And I noticed before Dead Silence, there was another movie, and it said Metal Noir. And I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. I should check that out too. Mm-hmm. And so I watched Metal Noir, and I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with this movie. I was like, this is the coolest movie ever, and I'm going to write a review about this. And so I started doing research, and come to find out the movie was never released. I didn't realize I was sitting on probably one of the only copies in existence of this film. And so I was like, wow, you know, I'd really love for people to see this movie. And so through Hugh Gallagher, I believe, he put me in contact with David R. Williams, who was the director. And, you know, I told him how much I loved the movie and how much I'd love to put it out. And we struck a deal. And that was our first DVD release. And that one was really challenging, though, because what I didn't mention is that tape that I recorded, that I watched it on, that was pretty much like the only print we had. The filmmaker had a master, but the master was ruined in a flood, and it was covered in mold. You know, I was so bummed. I got the master sent to me, and I open it up, and I see all the mold, and I couldn't find any labs that would take it. You know, no one wanted to take it. And so I had to use the VHS cut I had, which was a dub. It was a dub that was sent to a reviewer, is actually the origin of it. Mm-hmm. But so it was a dub. It wasn't a good-looking dub. It looked pretty bad. There was a lot of rolling picture like you'd get on a lot of those old VHS and stuff. But I was able to track down a work print that one of the actors had. Really? But the work print was missing scenes. It had no music. It looked significantly better picture quality-wise, but it also had some pixelization because he had transferred this. He had a VHS. He transferred it to digital and got rid of the VHS tape. So all that was left was his digital file. So I literally went through the process of literally re-editing the movie from scratch using the work print and the bad-looking print that I had of the movie. Okay. And that took about 6 months. It took about 6 months to, I mean, and I tried to make it shot for shot just like it was in that original cut, you know. And it came out really good. People seem to love the movie, and a nice little kind of bookend to all that is recently the master. We found the masters. The DP found the masters, and he sent me the masters. Once again, these masters are not complete, so I have to re-edit the movie yet again. But they look beautiful, though. The quality of the footage is just light years above the previous version. So we plan on putting that out on Blu-ray sometime next year after I get that new cut re-edited.
Okay, so you're going from DVD to Blu-ray eventually.
Well, yeah, so we released the original on DVD. What I'm saying is we're doing a whole new print of the film. Like, we found the masters, which are way better quality, and we'll be releasing that on Blu-ray. So it's definitely an upgrade, you know. And that brings up a great question, though. You know, a lot of people ask me, why DVD? Why are you putting out DVDs of these movies? Well, why not Blu-ray? And it's pretty simple. I mean, these movies were shot on SD. I mean, they're 720 by 480. I can blow them up to make them Blu-ray size, but all you're doing is pointing out flaws more and stuff like that. I mean, you can get a better encode of the movie, which is nice. So if you want to put more special features and stuff on that, then you can do that, and that's the nice thing about Blu-ray. But overall, I mean, most of these movies are about an hour long. You know, I feel the Blu-ray format just doesn't seem to make much sense to upscale movies. You know, I'm a big physical media fan myself, so
Here
you
too,
know,
it took me the longest time to start to collect Blu-rays because I really didn't have a player. So it
right.
was like finally I got a couple of stations where I actually review most of my films on, and if they're Blu-ray or whatnot. But I'm still really not that much of a fan.
Well, you know, it's a great format. It's just, you know, when you're talking about analog content, it's not going to
Yeah,
look any better on a Blu-ray
no.
versus a DVD, and it's just a lot cheaper to produce DVDs. So, you know, I could put out Blu-rays, but I'd have to charge a lot more money for them. And to me, at the end of the day, it's about getting these movies out to the fans. You know,
Oh yeah.
it's not about making money. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's like I just want to put out a product that I have integrity in. You know, and that's how we've worked with our company, you know, unlike other labels that are doing things like all these limited editions and stuff like that. Like I have a limited label that I do put out some limited films, but for the most part, all of our movies are always in print, you know. And I try to make it that way because I don't know about you, but there's nothing worse than like, oh, this movie's limited and oh shit, I missed it and now I can't buy it and I have to go online and pay hundreds of dollars for a copy because some guy bought 20 of them and is now selling them for a markup on eBay, you know.
Which is why I'm so glad that you had some of your original basement video section of films come out during the last Halloween. I was able to pick up them and so that I can begin to watch some of your films that you put out. So why don't you tell me a little bit about some of the other releases that you have on SOB?
Yeah, so gosh, we've worked with so many great filmmakers. Let's see, some of my favorites are The Spirit Gallery, which is a movie from 1995 directed by John Strysick. Some people might know him. He directed some episodes of Tales from the Dark Side, the series, as well as Monsters, and one of the shorts in Dark Romances. And that's like a really kind of crazy, weird, almost arty SOV movie. It's so much fun. It's like a body horror type flick. I don't want to say too much or give too much away because it is one of those kind of head scratchers. But it's the reason I love that movie is it's a great example of what you can do with the genre. Here's a movie that if this was shot on film, I guarantee you Arrow or one of these Vinegar Syndrome would be chomping at the bit to put out this movie. You know what I mean? It would be a horror classic. But because it's shot on video, not a lot of people have heard of it. Not a lot of people have seen it. And so, you know, we really were the first company to give it a real proper release. And, you know, people seem to really love that one. And I'm a huge fan myself.
Okay.
What else have we done? Gosh, we've done so much. I mean, I've put out 6 movies by Chris Seaver. We did all the Warlock movies, most of the early Warlock movies. Those were a lot of fun working on those and doing all the special features for those. Mr. Ice Cream Man, the old Dead Alive movie, not the Clint Howard movie, but the movie that was actually shot around the same time. And there's actually a whole Fangoria article about that way back in the day about the 2 Ice Cream Man movies that were pretty much shot around the same time. And we've done a lot of Dead Alive releases. So for people who are familiar with Dead Alive home video, you know, we also put out, gosh, what are the other ones? We've done a few now. We just put out Writer's Block, Truth or Dare Part 2. That was one of them. We're about to put out Dead Time Tales pretty soon, which was another one. Yeah, so we've done a lot of that stuff.
That was Things, if I remember correctly, 3.
Things 3, yes. Yeah. So we're putting out a full-blown special edition of that one. So I know currently David Sterling has it out, but it's a bare bones copy, and ours isn't officially licensed from the filmmaker. Working really close with Ron Ford on that and to put out a really nice edition of that movie. So that should be coming out sometime next year. And worked a lot with Joe Sherlock. I think we've released, gosh, I don't even know how many. There's a ton of Joe Sherlock's movies.
Yeah, I still plan on getting copies of those eventually. It's just a matter of coming up with the money for it.
You know,
I want to do it all in like one sync like I did your last one. So, but you're also selling some Ron Ford stuff, correct?
Yeah, we got a few of Ron Ford's movies. I was gonna say though, just to go back to that Joe Sherlock thing, that those Joe Sherlock double features we put out, those are some of my favorite releases we've done. We made all those drive-in style, so you can watch the movie drive-in style with all the intermission shorts and stuff like that, and trailers and stuff like that. You know, like those old Something Weird drive-in discs that they used to do. Yeah. So it's kind of similar to that, and I thought Joe's movies just worked so perfect for that. And so those are some of my favorite releases we've done. I mean, I highly recommend like people check those ones out if you're into that kind of stuff. Like I love that kind of stuff. So I just thought it was a great idea, and they're some of my favorite discs we put out. Ron Ford, yeah, we've done a lot with Ron Ford, and we're going to continue to do more with Ron Ford. The first movie we put out by him was a newer anthology he made for us called Monster History 101. And that was the first film we worked on him with. And since then, we've picked up quite a few of his movies for distribution. We just recently, just this last month, put out The Crawling Brain, which, if you're a Ron Ford fan and you have not seen The Crawling Brain, it's such a great movie. It's not it's my second favorite Ron Ford movie. My first favorite, actually, we're putting out next month a movie called Dead Season. Nice. But Crawling Brain is so amazing. It's such a great movie. It's pretty much like a 50s sci-fi movie if it had blood and nudity in it. I mean, even down to the score. It has like a classic score. They were able to license a bunch of classic library music and stuff. And I mean, it's just such a fun movie.
Alrighty. Well, where can we find some of these films? Is there a website that you have been putting them out on?
Yeah, so anyone interested in checking out any of our DVD releases can go to sovhorror.com. We've put out, at this point, I think next month will be our 44th release. So, I mean, we've put out a ton of movies at this point. And like I said, I try to keep all the movies pretty cheap, you know, so people can afford them easily. And, you know, we do try to put really nice packages together. We do have a sister label, though, too, I want to mention, called Basement Videos. Okay. And Basement Videos, focuses on limited releases of newer indie products. So typically it's newer indie films from filmmakers who I either like what they're doing or I just want to help spread their work out there. And we usually sell those really cheap as well. Those are never over $10 for a disc. Sometimes they're as low as $6. So, you know, and those are always limited, though, to 2 months only. So, you know, where other distributors, once again, only 100 copies and that's it. I'm like, hey, I'll give you a window of time. Here's 2 months to get the movie, you know, and then after that 2 months, you know, we pull them out of print. And every so often, though, we've gotten permission to re-release them, and we've done that. You know, I mean, you were talking about that, you know, that recently for October, we released all the Basement Video stuff. So all the out-of-print titles were back for a brief period of time. So, you know, fans who missed out the first time around could come and get them. So
definitely.
SFXhorror.com is definitely the place to go. And there's lots of other stuff on there, too. We got, you know, videos, that SOV, The True Independence web series I told you about, podcasts. I have my own podcast, and I'm also a part of another one. Video reviews from my good friend Jonathan Knight, who runs B-Movie Madness. Also just video reviews of lots of gore movies. A good buddy of mine, Gore Filth, does some of our reviews of lots of modern gore movies.
I saw that you have a Gore Filth collection there. I know I've got 2 of his films. I still have to pick up that from you. But I thank you for coming on with me and let me chat you up about some of the things that you've been a part of. It's definitely been a pleasure. So, yeah, definitely go check out SOVhorror.com and give these movies a buy and a watch because some of these movies definitely need a fandom for them. And I kid you not, I love the work that you're doing. So,
thank you so much. Appreciate that.
But I think that's all the time that we have for today, folks. And hopefully you just listen to this. I had a blast, and hopefully we'll see some cool stuff coming out within the next, especially since Christmas is coming out. Great gifts if you want to get them to an SOV horror fan out there. So, but thank you for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a blast.
All righty. Tune in tomorrow night on this channel. We are going to be, since I do podcasting myself, I go on with a group and we talk about films, and it's our friend Dustin's birthday. And we're doing his picks. We're going to be talking over Alligator 2, The Mutation, and Komodo. So check those out tomorrow night if you can. I'm sure we'll have a blast. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.